This week's episode is brought to you by Intact Insurance, the home and auto insurance brand Canadians trust most. Okay, welcome. This is our first on the road podcast. I am Jann Arden. You are listening to the Jann Arden podcast. As always, I'm here with the wonderful Caitlin Green. She is not sick this week.
No.
Listen how she sounds. Clear. There's no nasal combustion.
It's a real treat for me. This rarely ever happens, and I'm actually feeling good. I don't sound like a phone sex operator for a change.
Yeah. Well, and Sarah Burke is with us. Those girls are in Toronto. Joining us on the show this week, we have an amazing guest. This woman is someone you might already know from social media, Instagram in particular. She is a tarot card reader and so much more. I say that like that's what she does. She's so much more. She's been using tarot for 35 years to help everybody from celebrities to CIA to corporations to personal friends of mine on this show, Caitlin Green. Her card of the day readings on Instagram are being viewed by tens of thousands of people. They take part in her moon rituals, which have inspired her upcoming release called Burn Your Shit. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the life-changing magic of rituals. Please welcome Lori Dyan.
I love you. Thank you. It's the best intro I've ever received in my life.
First of all, I love your hair. I love that you're wearing red. And it already just speaks to me. There's just like an energy coming off of you. I feel like I'm very devoid in that department of my life as far as being kind of intuitive and being tapped into the stuff around me. Where did your interest in tarot card reading come from?
It's so interesting because, first of all, I think everyone's intuitive. Some of us just have the volume turned up more than others. And it's more trusting it that kind of turns the volume down. But I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, and and there was a psychic in Calgary named Erica. And this was like late 80s. And everyone knew Erica. My dentist went to Erica. And I was just enthralled with her. I've always been interested in the metaphysical. And she did tarot, palms, crystals. She had like red velvet wallpaper. She was the whole thing. And she was a legit witch. And she mentored me in tarot. That's where I learned tarot. Tarot just spoke to me from day one. It was like, oh, there you are. Like it was love at first sight.
You can get some really, really gorgeous tarot decks too now. Like whenever I go into some of those stores that sell these cards, and there's usually some really cool group of people working there that will direct you to, oh no, you got to go and hold the cards. Like, don't just buy them, go and hold them and have the cards speak to you. I was with a friend of mine several years ago and we went into a shop in Kensington and this girl was adamant. Like, she said, did you hold those? She took them up to the cash register and she said, have you held the cards? And she's like, no. She goes, can you just do me this favor? Go hold all the cards. Well, she ended up not buying the ones that she had wanted to buy. She went back, set them in, shut her eyes, held the cards. I had to go plug the parking meter, because we needed more time. You describe yourself as woo-woo without the cuckoo, which means, that there's a lot of skeptics always attached to this kind of work. And maybe you can speak to that.
Well, definitely. I think woo without the cuckoo just gives people an immediate sense of my approach to tarot because I obviously take it very seriously. I've been doing it for decades. I use my original deck. Every reading I've done is in my deck. And I'm not goofy about it. I'm not going to be saying like, say goodbye to grandma. Like that's not my thing, and tarot gets a bad rap in popular culture and all the movies. It's, the fortune teller with all the craziness. And she's like, oh, death. Bleh. And that's not what it is. Tarot is, I always say it's like a conversation with your soul. I'm the interpreter and tarot, these cards are just pieces of paper with pictures on them. And each picture tells a story. And then together they tell the story of you. And what you do with the information is up to you because you have free will. So anyone ever saying they're psychic who's saying like, if you don't do this, this will happen. Bleh. I always say that's goofy.
Over to you, Caitlin, because you've got some great questions.
Yeah. So, tarot has always been something that was of interest to me. And so then I saw your account. I can't remember if it was recommended to me on like the explore page, or I don't know how I came across it, but I came across it and I started following you. And I started doing this during the heavy duty lockdown phase of the pandemic, which is, I think, when a lot of people discovered you. Is that like
Hmm.
true? Is that when that's when sort of like
Yeah.
things changed for you?
Yeah, everything just went. And back to my hair, Jan, this is my COVID hair. I've been coloring my hair for 30 years. I look like half an Oreo cookie for most of the pandemic. And then when I finally let my freak flag fly and was just like, here I am, this is me. And I'm just going to put it out there, because before it was very much in-person readings and everything went online, and it just absolutely took off. And I think people were so disconnected. They're looking for a way to connect with themselves, with their communities, with, higher power, spirituality, and things like tarot and astrology are a means to do that.
It feels like that was when we were collectively going through this trauma, but you're doing this, it's like collective trauma that's happening in isolation. And
Yeah.
everybody wanted to be distracted and also kind of empowered and to hear a little bit. So you're forced to like go inside. You're forced to, do some of that internal work, whether that's good or bad. So when you did my reading, which was recent, which was fairly recent, even though we'd kind of been like circling each other for a while, it was really it was very accurate in specific ways. Obviously, there's stuff that's going to be accurate in more general ways, but it was quite accurate in specific ways about stuff that I was dealing with. Some of it was really positive stuff. Some of it obviously is like harder personal stuff. So how do you, when you're getting like goosebumps, like you said during our reading that you had goosebumps a bunch of times because the same messages kept coming through over and over again. So how do you deliver the things that are coming through with certainty if they're negative? Like how do you handle that for people?
Such a good question. I always say there are no bad tarot cards. They're just bad tarot card readers. So the messages that come through, some cards are definitely more fun and some are more work. But it's never like, ooh, this sucks. See you later. Where's my money? It's more like, okay, you're going through it. Here's a different way to look at it. Or here's a way that you can navigate through it. Or here's what's waiting around the corner, like in terms of just the energetic landscape, so that it gives people tools and something to work with, because you want to empower someone to be able to make the best decisions and take action for themselves. You don't want to abdicate responsibility of your life to some rando with tarot cards.
Yeah, I like the part where you always reinforce that we have free will. So you're going to get this information, but what you're going to do with it is different for every person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm always curious as to what friends and family think of this type of work and going into this. And obviously, when you start to monetize and make a living, you're no longer working in retail or whatever it is that you started off doing. You said you've been doing this for 35 years. So what were their reactions when you were like, this is not going away, folks?
I mean, I always had the cards at parties or, practicing on people when I first started. So the cards were always there. Like it was like, oh, there she is with her cards. And I actually have a communications degree. I worked in corporate communications. And I always tell people, this is the God's honest truth. I didn't get fired from a few jobs because of my tarot. Like I would take my clients for lunch and give them tarot readings because I wasn't great at the other stuff. And so but it was sort of like my little like, this is my little hobby. This is my passion part. This is a fun thing to do at parties. And then when I started to realize like, this is what I'm really good at. And this is what I feel I'm here to do, because my mission is very much inspire, empower, and enlighten like people. And I think you can attest to this, Caitlin, is like the readings you come out of it with like changed and it's empowering. And so to me, it was like I couldn't not do it. And I do have some relatives who are, fairly religious. And again, tarot with the stereotypes of this is devil worship, this is, dark art stuff. It's not at all. It's pieces of paper. So, the people who aren't on board, all right, see you later. And that comes with age too. I think you can agree with
Yeah, it
this, Jan.
does.
Like who
Yeah.
gives a shit,
Yeah, you're not going to lie on your deathbed going, oh, gee whiz, I really wish I would have spent more time with the people that were outwardly opposed to my life and my choices and things like that. As you get older, you literally realize that the people in your life are so important that you need
Mhm.
to have people that when you leave a room, you feel uplifted. We've talked about that a lot on this show. of and the girls are behind me a few years, right? I'm the matriarch of this group. And so whenever I hear some of their quandaries, I'm just like, yeah, but they're way more ahead than I ever was at that, in my
Yeah.
late 30s and 40s, to be assertive, to do their own thing. So you girls I was still kind of catering to people and I was the proverbial fourth grader going, like me, I'll do anything. I actually used to go to parties when I was, in my 30s and 40s, and people would say, make us laugh, Jan. I'm like, what? What are
No,
you
thank you.
talking about? So yeah, it is our choices in how we go forward. But yet, like you said, you're going to be the person at the party that everybody, even if you don't have your cards, which probably is a rarity. Oh, can you do a reading for me? Like I want to make some decisions about my job, and should I marry this guy, and what's going to happen, and is Arthur going to go to college? So I'm sure you're inundated much in the way that I am for, can you sing a song, can you do this, and that's kind of a pain in the ass sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, my cards, I always say there are no yes or no cards, so yes or no questions aren't going to work.
Yeah.
And I do tell people, you're on the friends and family rate, so you never have to pay for readings, and I have no problem because I'm very confident in my abilities charging for my readings now. But friends and family, it'll always be like, if you just want me to pull a card, it takes me 2 seconds. It's no problem. Like it charges me up. Doing tarot, talking about, doing the rituals I do, things like that, I get hyped from it. Like after doing hours of readings, I need to take some melatonin, because rather than being drained, I'm like pumped. So I don't have, and people are fairly respectful too. They know though when when that's when people usually come for tarot readings, when you're desperate. It's like,
Talk to us about the rituals. Talk to us about the moon rituals. Obviously, we're going to talk about your new book, concerning and addressing rituals. So what walk us through, what is that, or what do people do? Like, what would I do if I came with you for a moon ritual?
so the moon rituals, full moons and new moons, pardon me, full moons and new moons are, we're just harnessing the lunar power. A full moon is all about when the moon reaches capacity, reaches peak power, and then releases. And so we harness that energy to let go of what is no longer serving us, whether it's a person, a situation, a limiting belief. And you can do it by yourself, standing over your toilet with like a little piece of paper, lighting it on fire, or you can be on Instagram Live with me, or you can be in a coven naked in the woods with a bunch of witches. It's whatever floats your boat. There's something so empowering and cathartic about saying, I now choose, I've got goosies just talking about it. I now choose to release shame around whatever, or anger towards this person. And you light it on fire. And as it starts to burn, you say, and so it is. I now choose to
So it
release la la
is.
la. And so it is, right? Goosies, right, Caitlin?
Yes.
And there's something about putting ceremony, putting ritual to endings. So that's the full moon. And then the new moon is about new cycles, new beginnings, fresh starts. So that's when we manifest. That's when we write stuff down. And the manifesting ritual I do was actually informed by my witch mentor, because she gave me this spell work, homework, years ago, that I've been telling people to do for decades. And it works too. It's not wishful thinking. It's not the ding dongs in front of their vision board, like, oh, when am I getting married? Like, that's goofy. It's taking, having a clear, focused intention, taking some inspired action towards that intention, and then letting life respond. See how things play out.
I think it is important to stop, realize what it is on your shoulders that is bothering you, because a lot of times you'll ask people, what's bugging you? I don't know, it's just like a general malaise. I'm so frustrated at work, and it's hard for people sometimes to articulate exactly what's bugging them. Like, they've had a friend for 40 years and they're not too sure what, Carol is bugging them about. But there's something, definitely, when I'm around Carol, and I don't, if there's Carols out there, I'm just, um, but to articulate it, to write things down, which I think is part of the journaling family. Am I wrong, there, Lori, as far as taking your thoughts, putting them on paper, being able to
Exactly.
read that when you go to bed at night and say, oh, wow, wasn't really thinking I was going to write that kind of stuff down. So,
You think?
um, yeah, it's so important to take time, isn't it, to address what's bugging you and to actually physically throw it off a cliff or burn it and, like you said, put it in the toilet, set it in an ashtray. I
Yep.
love that whole idea because something does click in with your brain.
Well, and humankind craves ritual. That's why everyone was out banging pots and pans during the pandemic on their balconies, whether it's blowing out a birthday candle or dancing naked under the full moon or doing a gratitude journal, doing skincare, grieving. We need rituals, and rituals are just habits that are infused with loving intention. They become sacred because, sorry, say that again. They become sacred because of the significance that we imbue them with. And so, to go to the book that I wrote, it is rituals that can meet you where you're at in whatever moment you're in. And it's something that you can do anytime. You can do it with friends, you can do it alone, but we need rituals. We're already doing rituals. It's just ritual sounds kind of sexy and witchy, but we're already doing it.
Our guest is Lori Dyan, and her new book upcoming. When does it come out, Lori?
Comes out May 28th.
Holy crap. Okay, just this conversation is going to continue. Burn your shit. I love this. Burn your shit, the life-changing magic of rituals. And how long have you been working on this book?
This book I wrote really fast. I actually wrote another book on tarot that's coming out next year. And that is the book that got me the agent and got me the meeting with the publishers. And then HarperCollins, I actually got a 2-book deal. They said, we love this tarot book, but like we saw Burn Your Shit on Instagram the other night, like 2 days before my meeting. And they said, tell us about rituals. And I said, well, funny enough, that's my second book that I'm just percolating. So they said, great, let's do that. We want the ritual book out first. So I wrote the ritual book in, I'm going to say it was about like 7 months.
That's fantastic. But you knew you had your path. You knew what you needed to do. Right. And some of those things do go really, really quickly. I know with songwriting, I don't fool around. It's like you're in and out of that thing in an hour, especially when you have all that information in your head. Caitlin, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you and Lori want to talk a little bit about your reading? Because I'm so curious about it. You've been through a lot in the last couple of years. Our listeners are no stranger to that. The grief process, losing your son, all the things that go along with all of that. It's overwhelming. Can you talk about that a little bit, what the reading was, and if you don't want to?
No, I do want to.
Okay.
I'm a chronic sharer. Well, I guess the thing that I noticed too when we did the reading is that Lori stipulated this is sort of a window that's happening kind of right now. So when you do a reading, what would you say the time frame is that the cards typically cover?
I always say it's from now to 6 to 9 months out.
Okay. Yeah. So that was sort of the period we were looking at. Past stuff obviously is going to like influence things, but so we were really dealing with currently the change in my job. So because I had recently been laid off from Chum, we were talking a lot about that, and that's really what I had questions about. And so Lori, do you want to break down how the reading works? Like, because there was 3 parts or maybe even more. I forget.
Yeah. So a full reading is 1 hour. The first half is spent doing what's called the spread. That's the pattern I lay the cards out in, and it's in a circle. It looks like a clock, and we read the cards in pairs across from one another. So like 12 o'clock with 6 o'clock. And as you go around the circle, it tells the story of you, and it addresses every area of life. And you'll see certain themes or kind of almost motifs emerge through that. The last half of the reading, the last half hour, is split between pulling more cards from the top and bottom of the deck. And then we also have time for questions at the end. You can ask as many questions as you want. I leave questions to the end because usually what you want a reading about is addressed in the reading, right? But we always have time for questions.
Yeah. So a lot of one of the things, because obviously when you like leave a long time career, there's a certain amount of paperwork associated with it. There's a certain amount of admin work that it is kind of ongoing. And then when you're looking for new work, it's the same thing. So there was a card that got pulled early on in the clock, and it was a man who was like underneath all of these papers with like stuff around him. And it was just so specific, because I think that that's some skeptics will say that a lot of this stuff, oh, you can apply that to any part of your life. I was like, this is very specifically what is actually happening with me right now. And that would not normally be happening for me in this way. So that was pretty early on. The messages also were really clear. Like I had a lot of questions about, do I want to stay kind of, so to speak, in the spotlight in media? Do I want to stay kind of front and center? Should I go back to some of my previous roots, which was working in like, documentary? And do I want to go back to doing that? It's just, I have a lot of questions about my career path. And when I asked that at the end, this was, I think, one of the only questions I asked. Lori pulled the sun and she was like, this is the literal spotlight of the universe. So that's pretty damn clear.
I love that.
Yeah, it was really positive. And I felt positive going in. I mean, even when we started, the other thing that was cool is at the start of the reading, Lori does this thing where she like looks at you for a set period of time. And so you like look at each other and you're like, ooh, and it feels like it's like a reset. It's like if you're going shopping for perfume and they say in between you're smelling perfumes, you're going to smell the coffee beans. It feels like that. So it was like this energetic reset for the reading. And that I really liked. And even when that was happening, I was like, oh, this feels positive. And everything I got was really positive, pushing me in a new direction, but also leaving everyone open, especially for me, because I can be very like, I want stuff now. I want things done now. I feel behind. I feel behind in my life. Like I feel like I should have done more. And so it was validating. I know. I'm not like, hey, it's not logical, but it is how I feel. So yeah. So I felt like, and I've been thrown off a little bit. And I've been dealing with so much stuff in my personal life that my career aspirations have had to take a back seat for the last little while. So it was reassuring that like, you've got this, you're going to put in the work. You do have some work to do, but when you put in the work, the fruits of your labor will be seen and abundance is in store for you. But like, there's some stuff to do to get there. And I like that reassurance of like, you can achieve these goals if you do the following things specific to me. Yeah.
I think people always forget that. Oh, go ahead. No, Lori, go.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that you always get homework in a reading with me. And it's never like dig a ditch. It's going to be watch this Brene Brown documentary or Brene Brown talk, or go burn your shit under the full moon, or murder your devil, which is that inner critic. There's always something to take away that is an action you can take to help you move forward and step into your potential.
Well, and the part that resonates too for me, because I've had so much therapy, is that I would say, again, pre-pandemic, more of a skeptic about lots of these things that are spiritual. But then I also started doing therapy work, and I started seeing a correlation between a lot of CBT, which is a widely accepted form of therapy, and the stuff that was happening with, tarot and astrology.
Just tell people what CBT is, Caitlin.
CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay. So really around anything to do with, writing something down that no longer serves you when you're doing a burn your shit ritual and then saying, let it all go. That is the type of work that you also do in actual therapy. Like people with PhDs tell you to do this. It's just about being intentional with your way of thinking and your approach to life and setting action for those things.
Yeah.
That's something that someone with a PhD is also going to tell you.
People need that. People need a visual. They need those aids, I think, to get them through. I love tarot cards. I've had, it's funny when Sarah came with 3 of her really great girlfriends to my place last summer. We had such a fun night. Of course, I don't drink, but I'm very happy to ply other people with like tins of vodka and soda. And I'm like, does anybody else? Are people still drinking gin and Coke? Like people are like, no, they're not. So, but one of Sarah's girlfriends, and I'm going to let you speak to this, Sarah, brought tarot cards. And she's a person that's practicing it. She's really passionate and interested with it. And we sat around with a fire crackling. The mood was so perfect. The sun was down. We'd all had such a fun day. And then Sarah's girlfriend started doing tarot cards, and she had a book to refer to the cards. But there was some really interesting stuff that came out, and it was very binding for us. Like we got to know each other. Talk about that
Through
a little
the cards,
bit, Sarah.
kind of. Yeah. What's so funny about like this concept even is I didn't have like doing tarot cards with Jann Arden on my like bingo card for last year, but it somehow happened. and my friend is much more into it than I am, but I will say that like since then someone gave me a gift for the holidays of like a moon deck, and so I've been like trying to figure it out myself a little bit. That's a thing, anyone can pick it up, right? But there were some very specific sort of directions, like one of our friends was struggling with something in her relationship, and one of our friends was struggling with like new business things, and it just sort of provides like a sense of guidance, but it's still within you to make the decisions on whatever path, I think, is what's sort of
But it
important.
got us talking, didn't it, Sarah? Like we really started
Yeah.
asking each other questions, Lori, and I thought that was such a fantastic,
Yeah.
I don't know, to get people talking. And we weren't on our phones. I don't even think we were listening
Yeah.
to music. We were just asking each other questions. It was so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tarot cuts through the bullshit. Like tarot doesn't do small talk, you know? Tarot gets into it. It's like, okay, let's look at what's possible, what's holding you back, where you're at, where you could be. Yeah.
And with only a few minutes left, you should probably pull a card for us.
I mean, it would be weird if I didn't, right?
Well, I think I really think it's so fantastic. And just like on a personal note, I want you to know I'm glad you exist in the world. And I'm glad that there's whimsy. And I don't mean that lightly. I don't mean in a way that's, I mean that in a very serious, scientific, cultural, like you said, a ritual, something that we do that gathers us and gives us hope. I'm glad you're in the world, and I'm glad you chose to do something that was outside of it's not entertainment. It's not a circus trick. It's not teaching a parrot to ride a bike. And I want people to understand that. It is you know, you guys know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. That's just a funny
It's
visual.
not parlor humor. Yeah. Well, we go on the internet, you see a lot of parrots riding bikes. And it's just important because of COVID, it cracked open our shell of what we were able to accept and take in. So I'm really glad that you are doing the work and giving tens of thousands of people hope and that morning thing where they can look at, what you're saying to them and they can take it in their own way and carry that little piece of light with them during the day. And God knows we need that more than ever. So I really appreciate you doing that and doing it bravely and doing it without any apologies and not, doesn't matter what people's perception is. If you want to believe it, great. If you don't. Let's just all move on. But this is what I'm
Yeah.
choosing to do with my life. So
Well, and before you do a card for us, I do want to say that there was a funny moment that Lori shared with me because she's going through some transitions and stuff in her own life. And you came across a little something of Jann, like Jann adjacent.
The book?
Yes.
Oh, can I tell you this quick?
no,
This has
we've
been-
listen, we've got all the time.
I-
I just don't want to keep you, I think it's very
Oh.
selfish. No, sometimes a guest can
I
be here and
can-
it's 62 fucking minutes and we're like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, it's 62 minutes.
Listen, I got all day, so don't worry about that. And also, before I get into this thing, but thank you. I just want to say thank you. I received that. What you've said, that is really
Good.
important. And also, I got goosies with you, with your work and Sarah and Caitlin, the work you're doing. Like, we need happy warriors out there. We can't all be strident
agree.
and angry and we need to be able to like replenish people and inspire them. So I think, yes, thank you. I just wanted to say that because that's what I think that you do as well.
Thank you.
Let's pull some cards. But yeah, let me tell you about this book thing. And you can cut this if this is too long. So
Shut up. It's got to be all about me.
I'm separating from my husband of 25 years. Okay.
Oh,
And moved out of my, no.
I know, but it's still, yay.
I know it's hard.
I mean, yay.
Fuck.
Yeah.
No, it's hard as hell. Yeah, it's not easy, but it's necessary. And it's my own like tower to pull a tarot card about it. And I'm moving and I was packing stuff up and I had like 5 books because I just started taking books out of the library because my books were so old. Like I'm 53, like I had a lot of old books. They're starting to get like smelly and gross. And so I got rid of them all years ago. And I kept like a handful of books. I'm talking 5 books. And one of them was yours. And I just moved on March 15th. So I was like listening to your podcast and a couple of other podcasts. And I reached out to Caitlin to tell her like it was just really nice when it was 2 a.m. and I was trying to build a fucking IKEA bed with an Allen key, crying. to be able to hear your voices was just like soothing for my soul, And then I'm unpacking. I'm like, oh, hi, Jann Arden's book. Like, this is bananas. And it's funny because one of the other books was an author, Marissa Stapley. She wrote Lucky, which is like a Reese's book pick. And she's this Toronto author, is wonderful. And I met her and she's become a friend. And I was like, and your book is the other book. What? Like,
And
It was
now you're on
wild.
the fly.
And
Well,
now I'm on the podcast.
I think we're all learning as we open ourselves up that, coincidence and synchronicity are, are bedfellows for sure. There's just things you think about a friend calling, oh, I should call so and so, Carol. I should call Carol. And all of a sudden, ring, ring. And you're like, it's so weird. As they dive into the world of, just even physics, like science-based physics of what the human brain is capable of and how we communicate with each other. What's the statistic that they often throw out? Humans only use 10% of their brain, and some people only use 1% of their brain. We know who those people are. But it really is, it's unbelievable to think about the capacity that we have to expand and be braver in our lives and face death in different ways and not be and find a hopefulness of that continuum and how we bounce off each other and touch each other and zoom and I hope we get better at that as we go and less frightened.
Yes.
Because that would that would be a great way to go through our lives, is to not be fearful.
And I think that's what, I mean, rituals, tarot, astrology, like these things, like I was saying earlier, they connect us. It's one way. And if people have other ways of getting that, great, but it's one way that's on offer.
It's funny to think, and you've just, I want to get to the cards, but it's so funny. You said people have different ways of getting there. And when you think about addiction, and this is my theory alone, folks, when you think about addiction, alcohol, drugs or anything like that, of what people are trying to touch of the human brain, like you think, what is so compelling about that feeling, about injecting a drug or drinking a bottle of vodka or being excessive? I really do think it is the human spirit, that soul reaching out to connect with a part of yourself that you have to find a different way, but that is, they think, the quickest way. I'm going to shoot this in and I'm going to leave myself. And my dad said a really eerie thing. My dad was an alcoholic, but when I was a teenager, he said alcoholics are practicing how to die. And it stuck with me as a kid. He was drunk when he said it. But anyway, that's just something when I think about the burden placed upon our humanity of how, we're trying to make it through this zany life, and addictions are, to me, that eternal trying to connect, trying to find that piece of ourselves. Why are we here?
That's 100% yes. I think it's, you're either trying to connect with something greater or numb something that's too horrific to live with, Yeah. Profound. Do you want me to pull a card?
I sure do. God, stop me.
Okay.
So is it the kind of thing where you want us to like ask a question? There's 3 of us here. How does that work?
Well, what I would like to do, I mean, it's not like a couples massage where I can like do a card. I mean, I could pull a card for the group, but
I was getting a couples massage, so
a thruples massage. But I'm going to pull a card for each of you independently, if that's okay.
Yes.
And I want to just ask what you need to know right now. Because when we're doing a quickie like this, Tarot's just going to tell you what you need to know, not necessarily answering the question that you want to know.
Yeah.
But Sarah and Jann, there's an offer on the table for you each to get a full reading at your leisure. So let's plan that down the road.
Well, there's an offer to you.
it.
I will sing a song on your new bed from IKEA.
I gotta hold you to that.
Okay.
We were gonna make. Are you in Toronto?
I'm just outside. I'm in Burlington, but I'm always in Toronto.
Girls, we're gonna fucking make that happen. We're going to Lori's house.
Jann Arden bed
We're
song.
gonna have a cup of tea, and I'm gonna sing a song on your new IKEA bed with clothes on.
Okay.
Yeah, that would tick off like 7 bucket list items. So that would be amazing.
No, we're gonna make it happen. We need to go to Burlington for coats.
The old coat factory. Okay.
It's an American company.
And we'll plan. I have the woods are right beside my place. Like I'm looking at a forest right now, so we can go out there during a full moon. And
you don't have to tell me twice.
I know. I was like, don't tempt all of us.
because we're basically a coven now. I hope you realize that.
Yes.
This is a coven.
Agreed.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so you're going to hear me knock the deck. That's kind of like an energetic palette cleanser between each. I do that to start every reading. So I'm going to start with Jann and then Sarah and then Caitlin because I'm looking at the order of you on the
Okay.
little screen. So, okay, Jann, I'm doing what Caitlin mentioned, the awkward stare, getting your mojo in here. You can look wherever you want. I'm locked in on it.
Don't make eye contact.
I'm just going to cut the deck. You hear me do that? Okay, so I'm just going to say, what does Jann need to know right now? Oh, interesting, Jann. Ooh, you got a juicy one. Okay, this card, you got the 5 of Swords, and it's this guy on the beach holding the swords, and there are these people sort of like leaving him. They're walking away from him. And this is one of my least and most favorite cards in the deck, wrapped into one, because it's telling you stuff that you're banging your head against a wall about, like, I want it, I want it, I want it. This card is saying it's not happening, or it's not happening the way you think it's going to happen because of the clenching that's going on. It's like when a little kid brings a bird to his mom and is like, Mom, look at the bird. I love the bird. And bird's head pops off. Like that's kind of happening energetically. Like, I'm going to make this work. It's the last goddamn thing I do. And this card is saying, yeah, you've got to go from this to just, okay. You know what? If it happens, it happens. I can't force this. And you have to take the hit to the pride and the ego that comes with saying, I couldn't do it. I didn't get it. I failed at it. And that sucks, especially if you're the kind of person, which I know you are, who's used to just being like, just give it to me so it gets done.
Yeah.
Because this card's coming along to say, not this time, babe. So that's the gross part of the card, right? But the beautiful part of this card, I'm fully sweating now. The beautiful part of the card is if you can go from like, to just, you know what, que sera, sera. I don't know, if it works, it works. Then you'll find you go from clunk, clunk, clunk to whoosh, like a rocket. And you'll realize all this stuff you're clenching and clinging to is keeping you from seeing something so much better, or getting the thing you wanted all along, faster, cheaper, easier, less painful, all the things. I always say, this is like, I use an example of real estate. It's like you're looking for your dream home, you get in a bidding war, someone else gets your house, and you're like, screw it, I'm going to rent, and you go off in a snit. And then a year later, the market softens. Now you can afford something would have been way out of your price range before, and you think, well, thank God I didn't get that piece of crap. Look at this palace I'm in. See how it's the best and worst? This card is not about giving up. This card is about surrendering the need to control the outcome.
I know exactly what this is.
Right? Because you don't have control, you just have anxiety.
Yeah, I know exactly what this is. And it's so I'm glad you explained both sides of that kind of catch and release feeling. Like when you've got something, you're trying to hold on to it. But yeah, so interesting. And it's part in my professional life, certainly, but it's not so much to deal with me. It's about other people and trying to control their narrative and trying to wish that things were slightly different, but I know that I can't do anything about it. And I'll tell you girls all about it. I'll fill you in. That's quite frightening and scary, but also exactly what we said, que sera, sera. This is somebody else's story, somebody else's journey. It's not mine, but it affects me, but I'm going to be okay regardless.
Yeah. It's liberating to be able to surrender.
Yeah. No,
right?
That's so cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. And I took a picture of it, so I'll send that to
I
need Sarah.
And I will keep that in my heart going forward. When I feel the thermometer, the mercury rising, I will remind myself that I don't need to live in that place. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Yay. Okay. Sarah, you're up.
Okay. Jann is fired up right now.
It's true though. That's really interesting. Of all the things that I thought Lori was going to talk, that really caught me off guard.
I know. That's what I'm saying about tarot. Tarot's like, girl, we got 2 minutes. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Crazy wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. Sarah, you ready?
Ready.
What does Sarah need to know right now? Oh, this is nice. This is not giving you any sort of like action item necessarily, but it's a really nice, reassuring yay you kind of message. You've got what is this? 9 of Wands. And he looks like Rocky at the end of the fight. You know, he's sitting there and he's just like, come on, let's go another round. And this card is reminding you when things get tough, you can do tough stuff. You have had to in the past. You will have to in the future. You can do it now. This is a card of tenacity, perseverance, sticking with it, not giving up on you, you know? And this card, I always tell people, it's like when you see people run a marathon and they get to the finish line and it's like, oh crap, and they start to like fall apart. But the cheering of the crowd is what gets them over that finish line.
It's for the Maple Leafs.
No, this is not for the Maple Leafs. This is for you. I don't want you to get excited. This card is cheering you on, like, you can do it. You're so close. Keep going. So you're getting that rah-rah, like from yourself to yourself. Keep going. Be
I'm
tenacious.
feeling
You're
that.
almost there.
I'm feeling that for you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks, Lori. Okay.
You're welcome. But you know what's funny when you're saying it's a Maple Leafs? I've actually done tarot for corporations, like
my God.
corporate forecasting, pulling a card for every month of the year. It's
Wow.
really cool.
I
Yeah,
should put
it's-
that. I've been thinking about like I just came to the end of like doing my taxes, which, you know, as an entrepreneur, it's a new thing. It's hard. It sucks.
Mhm.
And yeah, maybe there needs to be like a tarot reading in my budget for my corporate guidance next year.
That's so funny
I
to me to
mean-
imagine like a corporate entity being like, Lori,
I-
tell us how Q2 is going to go. Like, what?
It's so, and it's wild because I do it. And after they're like, that kind of, it's so weird how it aligns and it tracks with what our plans are. It's so wild. But then I'll also do team building where
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
for
a
sure.
corporate happy hour and then it's bonding and stuff. But this is,
Yeah.
even when they called me about it, I was like, really? But
Tell us about
yeah, who knew?
Q3 immediately.
Right? Okay, Caitlin.
Okay.
Megan.
This is where,
Normal.
if you're
Oh my
with us on the
God.
audio, you need to go check out the cards on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, just cutting the deck. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's see. Does Caitlin need to know right now? Oh, God. Okay, we're getting into it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is one of the big homework cards. And I think, honestly, it's like Sarah's new to me. So the cards were like nice and easy. And the cards with Caitlin are like, oh, we know her. Let's let's do it. So this card, I always give a little preface because he looks a little scary. Okay.
it's death,
But I always
isn't it?
tell people, no, death card's one of my favorite cards.
Oh,
It's an
okay,
amazing card. This card, I always say he's not evil. He's just an asshole. Because
Okay.
you got the devil.
Oh, for
Okay.
crying out loud.
And the devil, this is so good though, because it's giving you an opportunity to do some really profound healing. And it's also giving the listeners an opportunity to see how a bad card isn't necessarily a bad card, you know?
Yeah.
So the devil, Tarot 101 is like addiction and 7 deadly sins and blah, 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 blah. For me, it's not that. It's going upstream from that, looking at the things that often can then manifest as like addictions and stuff like this. Oh, Jan, it totally talks to what we were talking about with addictions too. Interesting. Tarot's like on point with the whole episode. The devil is nothing biblical, nothing satanic. Okay. The devil is the gremlin on the shoulder, the voice in the head that we all have that's going, you're never going to get it. You're never going to do it because you're not this and you're not that. And this is limiting beliefs, negative self-talk. I got goosies, imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, all that garbage. And when this card shows up, it's saying this guy's being a turd. He needs to go. So I'm going to give you some homework that a friend of mine who's a life coach on the West Coast developed for me almost 30 years ago. So I've been telling people to do this for literally a quarter century, and it sounds kind of goofy, but it works. So at some point in the next day or two, find some time to ground yourself in breath, close your eyes where no one's going to bug you, and just visualize your devil. Give your devil a character sketch. Like, is it a big monster or a little bug? Is it male? Is it female? I always tell people my devil looks like Dobby from the Harry Potter books, like kind of a troll, but not cute. He smells like dirty diapers. He has a voice like my father.
Okay.
And his name is Fucker. And that's how you're going to remember your homework, because you got to find your little fucker.
Okay.
And you're going to get this beautiful visual in your mind. And then you're just going to go flick, squish, flush, poof, whatever. Just done. Kill it. Okay. And in the moment, it's like, ooh, that feels nice. That feels good. But he keeps coming back, or she. However, now you've got this in your arsenal moving forward, right? And so you have to be really mindful and aware of when that negative thinking and talking starts. Like, that won't work. I can't do that. And if you can catch yourself and go, wait, is that me or is that devil? And take a second to flick it or squish it or flush it. I use from the Roadrunner cartoons, you know, the dynamite, the TNT, and it's like guts everywhere. It sounds so silly, but you feel a shift and a lightening, and you just kind of takes the pressure off, and you realize, like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You know, no one's going to die if this doesn't go my way. No one's going to die if that falls apart. No one's going to die if I get laughed out of the room. It puts things in perspective. But more importantly, it takes that voice in our head that we accept as true without questioning, makes it a separate entity, and then just kind of gone. You know, and even if you, I'm not done. Even if you never do this again after the first time, just by shining the light of awareness, you're going to diminish his power. Okay. Because the good news, bad news about this card, the good news is it's all in your head. And then the bad news is it's all in your head. But having awareness is like half the thing to dealing with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you can talk.
The it's all in your head thing is funny because I've always thought, well, is there a worse place for something to exist? Everyone's like, well, it's all in your head. I'm like, right, but I live there. So that's a problem. I do think that a lot of that stuff it's sort of energizing because like you said, it gives you an action. It gives you something to set forth and actually do. And I also find it to be like kind of a relief because it usually reinforces something in your head when you're sitting down with you and you're asking a question to yourself and you're saying, let's focus on this area. It usually reinforces something you're already like, damn it, I knew that. I knew this was the thing I needed to do or not need to do, or the person I need to either get closer to or distance from, all that stuff. It feels energetically appropriate, I want to say. And yeah, so I know what's going on.
That's really fascinating. Those couldn't have been 3 more different cards and 3 more different experiences, but hence the complicated, very distinct versions of ourselves that I mean, and there's almost 8 billion people wandering the planet, and we're all so different, but we're also the same. That's so interesting. I'm so glad that you were able to come and see us. I feel like we need to have an in-house tarot touchdown, like, you know, at least once every couple of months. You know, even if we can grab you when you're on the run for 15 minutes to see the state of the world. But I hope you're never burdened by all of this stuff or feel that, because people want stuff from you. They want you to solve their problems. But I love the fact that you're posing, there's some homework involved with these messages. I love the fact that you're not going to say to them, if you start wearing green pants, you're really going to find money all over the place. Okay, bye-bye. Like, I think when you preface, you know, this information with the fact that you're going to have to do the work. There's no magic thing here. There's no wand I'm going to wave over you when you're at the session today. This involves you taking, it's like hope is a verb. You can have hope, but you have to do something to make it a functional part of your life.
It really comes back to the book almost, right? Burn Your Shit, the life-changing magic of rituals, which is within you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love
That's
that.
where the magic lies. The magic is in you. You just have to access it and trust it.
It's pretty darn incredible being a person. It's so horrifying and messy and chaotic sometimes, but on the days when it works and on the days when, you know, when we all look around ourselves and realize what we have, and sometimes it is in comparison with other countries or other people, what they're enduring, that sometimes it takes big things to move human beings into that mode of, I'm so lucky. I'm so grateful. We all face hard stuff, but my God, I can order food from an app that a guy on a bike will come and bring it to me. Like the things that we take for granted. But thank you so much, Lori Dyan, for being here today. And once again, the book is Burn Your Shit, Life-Changing Magic of Rituals. That's out in May. Go follow Lori on Instagram and get inspired every day and see the card of the day, the affirmation, and keep doing what you're doing. We're here if you ever need us. And I mean that. We're going to get to Burlington, and I'm going to teach the girls some backup parts.
Sweet.
For you know, I don't know.
Amazing.
Something. And we'll be there. But thanks so much for spending time with us today. I think the listeners are going to love it. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks for letting me. Thanks for making me play in your coven.
Lori.